The Kleins from Southern California. Hi. So, what I've been doing with my donors is, the MS Society gives you like this default email, thank your donors, and you can like fill in the blank. But for me, that's so impersonal. And so that's just not my style. So I've been making individualized videos because I want to talk about my experience with you, and I want to really touch base with you in terms of me knowing who you are and what you did for me. So, Neil, oh my God, hi. So the last time you and I were in the same space, we were at Hop Daddy here in Houston, Texas, and we were sitting at the bar, and I'll never forget, our conversation started out with you asking me about how my food was. From there went on to you asking me about my tattoos, and me just kind of telling you the story behind my chest piece. And from there we went, talking about MS. And one thing that, I'll get to the ride, I promise, but just I hope you make it through this video, because I tend to make these really long videos, but it's because my heart just holds so much, and I do so much better with just talking versus, typing something out. So one thing that I will always hold near and dear to my heart is that you had a conversation with me, and you asked me questions, and when I answered you, I felt that you were listening. And sometimes I feel like a lot of people have conversations with me, and they're nodding and they're kind of like, you were right there with me, and I'll never forget that conversation, man. I mean, like, no judgment. You talked to me, so thank you. And if there's one thing that I can leave to you and to your family, from my the deepest part of my heart to yours, is please just keep doing that. Wherever you go, wherever you are. I feel like it's not that's why I asked you, Neil. I was like, where are you from? Because, I'm American, but I was raised on the border by my Mexican mother. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm Chicana, and I am Mexican American, and whatever, we can start to categorize those things. But in my heart of heart, I know it's not a very American thing to like sit at a bar and talk to people. To me, I think of that, as a very foreign concept of when you're traveling or when you're in another country. So if there's one thing that DK can leave to the Neils of the world, which you made my heart so happy that day, Neil, is just keep talking to people wherever you are, and keep listening to them the way you did to me. So first and foremost, thank you so much for your monetary donation to my fund as my sponsor. The entire weekend wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for very generous donors as yourself. So thank you from my heart, from all the way in Houston, Texas. Thank you so much. The ride and the weekend, so it happened this weekend, will kind of be like the second weekend, but I'm still really living in it, and I'm still relishing in it. As you can see, I have this, I don't know if you can see now, but there's this farmer's tan, or there's this jersey tan, and it cuts right here. And it happens I have it on the same arm, you can't see it, but I finished the entire race. I did both days, 150 miles. I did stop at every rest stop, but in my heart of hearts, going into it, the ride itself was kind of the last part of what I was doing. My whole mission was to raise money for a cause that I really believed in, and to continue to spread awareness that way. And for me, the monetary donations were like a really big extra cherry on top. But just as I created awareness with you and talking to you and telling you my story. That was my big plan for the weekend. The weekend was entirely everything I could have asked for and more. The weather was absolutely perfect. I didn't have one blowout, not one flat tire, and it's funny that I'm sitting in front of you right now because my team mom, there's 3 spare tires here, and I have another 3 in my bag. I mean, my team mom just went above and beyond to make sure that I was fully prepared, and, you know, not one flat tire, not one mishap. So I should have prefaced with this, right? I had 2 jerseys for the weekend. Day number 1, I was going to be wearing my team jersey, Team Blue Line, and day number 2, I would be wearing the jersey from the MS Society that says, I ride with MS. And my team mom was like, well, that's normally the one you want to finish with. So because I look so high functioning and so normal, right, quote unquote normal, I got some pretty funny comments and some pretty funny questions about my bike, and included in this email, I'm going to send some pictures. But yeah, I'm riding a 3-wheel recumbent, and the first day I wore my team jersey, and so I remember we weren't even starting yet. We were in line at the start, and this man looks over at me and he's like, riding a lazy man's bike this weekend, are we? Work it. And the 25-year-old in me was like, whoo, and the 30-year-old in me was like, this is exactly, it's almost, and you know, when people are like, oh, God spoke to me in that moment, or oh, the universe, and that was when my purpose really was real, and it said, okay, this is a teaching moment for other people, right, who a lot of the time I do it, we don't really think before we speak. So I looked back at him and I said, sir, you know, I would totally be riding a 2-wheel bike if I could. Trust me. My goal is to get on a 2-wheel bike. I actually have MS. I'm 2 years in, and, you know, that's my mission here, is to raise money and to fight the good fight and to be inspired. He, of course, and my goal was not to make him feel bad about what he said. My goal was to educate. And so he said, well, you look great, and you have a really cool bike, and, you know, you're going to kill it. And so for the most part, the first day was filled with really odd, funny comments. Oh, that must be a really comfortable ride, leaning back, you know. And so the second day, when I wore my I Ride with MS jersey, it was different. And the second day was my favorite, not because of the jersey, but because the terrain. And the first day we were riding through country, and I saw wildflowers and cows and sky and heard sounds, and everything was very surreal for me the whole time. I mean, I probably cried 6 or 7 times the entire weekend, but I never imagined that something that I had put out of my mind, that I had said I wouldn't be able to do, so why get excited about it? In that moment, that first day, I thought, wow, this is so beautiful that you almost let all of this go. I can still smell the wildflowers. It's wild. It was really amazing seeing cattle and horses. I mean, right here, and we're riding down the street. There were 2 times in my entire life that I have recollected now where I said, that's God. One of them was when I was scuba diving in Belize 2 years ago, and I looked over to my right and I saw a manatee floating beside me. And he had no care in the world, however much he weighed, however many tons he was floating in the barrier reef, and so was I. And I know that science can explain all of that, but I remember seeing colors and seeing things that were so vivid and saying, okay, that's God. In my heart, that's God. I can't make that, and however we want to explain that it's made. Day number 1, blue skies, wildflowers, cows, horses. In my heart, we could talk about science all day. In my heart, that was God. That, I'll never forget that. I will never forget those images and the feeling. Day 2, like I said, was my favorite. I never imagined that we would be riding down a freeway. on the shoulder of a freeway, but down a freeway. And this is a freeway that I've been down many times on my way to Austin, and never really thought about what it would be like not in a car. Day number 2 was very pivotal for me, because now that you see that I'm on a recumbent, and now that I have a jersey that says I have MS, all of a sudden your questions and your comments have shifted. I mean, completely. They're more positive, which before, I mean, people were cheering for me, but if it doesn't look like there's anything wrong with you, people are very weary. It's the second day that now it's in your face. Now that I have MS. People now have really amazing questions about my bike. In total, the entire 2 days of the race, I told my story 4 different times to 4 different strangers, and not on my own accord, by people that had just somehow had questions or asked. So for me, finishing the 2-day race was beautiful. It made me feel like an athlete again. I know that I'm still very able. It just looks different than it did 2, 4, or 5 years ago. But telling people my story, and I can already see I'm at 12 minutes, but I want to tell you the most beautiful part of this whole thing. So we're at a rest stop, and this one woman sees my jersey, and she's like, you have MS. She's like, do you mind if I ask you? And I said, no, ma'am. I said, I'm 2 years diagnosed in. This is my 3-wheel recumbent. I'm riding for this purpose. I'm with this team. And she goes, I'm here riding she's like, I have my own team, and we ride for my niece. And she said, I've really been trying to get my niece to do the race. She's diagnosed with MS, but she's still kind of broken up over her diagnosis. And I said, oh, I completely understand. Is it fairly new? And she said, well, she's 5 years into her diagnosis. And I kind of gasped, because I looked at her right away and I said, oh my God, I'm 2 years in. And she said, well, no, you don't understand. She was a track star. She was an athlete. She was a cheerleader. She da-da-da-da-da. And I said, I've danced my whole life. I was a power lifter and a tennis player in high school. I have a degree in dance. I'm currently a full-time fitness instructor. And I said, that's not to say that her journey is completely different than mine. And she might need a little more time, but I really want you to let her know that there is so much life after an MS diagnosis. And it's up to us to kind of put that face out there and let people know that through talking about our story and through creating this awareness is how we can be there for each other. I told her that, when before I got diagnosed, I told my mom that if they told me it was MS, I would kill myself. And in hindsight, I want to be the reason that not one other person has to ever say that to themselves, because that's so silly and it's heartbreaking. Well, this woman ends up filming me. She's like, can I please film everything you just said? She puts it on the website to the MS Society. And, I'm talking about myself, I'm talking about my bike, and she's asking me how people get in touch with me and follow me. Well, that Monday after the race, I woke up and I've all of a sudden got all these friend requests on Instagram from people that had seen this video. So I did exactly what I set out to do. I talked about myself so that other people could know that this is what MS looks like. Your family, and your donation also gave me the opportunity to see other people riding with MS jerseys on 2-wheel bikes. So that's not to say that just because I had to ride a 3-wheel recumbent this year, I can't ride a 2-wheel bike next year. And trust me, the Neils from Southern California, in the middle of day 1, I swore to myself that as long as I could, I would be doing this every year, as long as I could. We already have another bike race planned. It's called Bike Around the Bay. It hits somewhere around Galveston. It's in October. Now I've got this itch, and I'm telling you, around on the second day when I really started to learn how to use the gears on my bike and really, there's a science to hills outdoors. And the second day, it just started clicking when you drive, like when you drive an automatic stiff shift car and you're not thinking about it, you're just kind of doing it. And, I really didn't want my experience to just be that once a year thing. So I'm kind of brainstorming on how this whole new journey and this new vibe can be me maybe writing in representation of other people for other races. Because second day I was passing people up, y'all. I was passing, we'd see people on these hills like stop mid-hill and get off their bike and walk their bike up this hill. And I said, I'm not doing that. I said, DK, you slow and steady wins the race, Thomas the Train. Like, if you have to gear down and truck your little legs up that hill, you do what you have to do because this is now your life. And your representation of your ride, your representation of your life. So if I'm going to be inspiring people with my words, I also want to be inspiring people with my actions in terms of what I'm doing on my bike. I'm now at almost 17 minutes, and I really hope you make it this far. And I hope you share this with your family because it wasn't just you, sir. I could feel the energy from your two boys and from your wife. Just kind of like playing host to someone else's story and someone else's vibe. My hope is that, people in the world are educated on MS, not just because they either have a family friend or they have a family member, but it's just that common that we know what it is. One thing that I really, really want to work on from now on, is that everybody who rides the MS 150 should know about what it is. There were several people I met on this ride who didn't even know what the acronym MS was for. And instead of getting mad, that's where I knew where my education and what my testimony was and how to share that with people. I'm looking to try to be an MS Society ambassador. I would love to do talks, but the really cool thing that came out of this, my bucket list item, there's this other race. It's called Bike Across the U.S. for MS. And it goes literally from one end of the U.S. to the other. It's a 3-month bike ride, so it's a 3-month commitment. And instead of it being like thousands of people, I think they take a team around anywhere from 18 to 20 people. And it's kind of the same thing, like you raise money for the race, but this goes according to the miles that you're riding. But I can't, like I said, the whole weekend was everything I wanted and more. I've done like the Houston full marathon, 26.2 miles on foot. And runners are just different. Runners are very internal and, they're trying to, even though you have people cheering for you, runners are trying to get to a destination. And cyclists, I don't know, it's just very different experience. There's not a lot of three-wheel recumbents out there. So when people are passing me, when people are seeing me, besides all the weird, outlandish questions and comments, like there were some people would just ride by me and be like, "You're awesome," and I was like, "You're awesome." Okay, so now I'm at a 20-minute video, but I'm telling you, I needed to personalize it, and really, I just feel like it's your donation and your help isn't going to make any sense if you don't know my experience. And here's the best part, right? So we've got Selena. Remember we talked about my icon on my arm? So I had a really good friend lend me a bike speaker that we attached to my handlebars, and it saved my entire ride. Some of the ride I did in silence, and most of the ride I did with my music. But I had this scenario in my head that I was going to cross the finish line with Selena blaring, and it was just going to be this moment for me, and I had my playlist ready, and we are about 2 miles out. So this year it ended at the Circuit of Americas in Austin, which is this like a raceway. And I'm 2 miles into the finish line. We're like right outside the raceway. You can see it. There's some hills. And my speaker dies. My speaker just dies. And I remember writing, and I thought, God, universe, energy, you wouldn't do this to me. You wouldn't make my finish not as epic as what I initially planned it to be. Right? I trust, and I just remember being so calm. It's like when something is wrong, but you have this calmness about you. And I know it sounds silly. I know it's just it sounds like, oh, the finish to a race. Like, it's not. It was a big deal for me. And while I say that the ride was second in terms of me really making connections and spreading my story, a big part of it was me writing. A big part of it was me needing to know that my body and my athleticism was still there, and that my heart and my legs would match. So I remember being really calm and thinking something big is going to happen, something big. So, in hindsight, if I would have rode through the finish line with my little speaker on, they've got this huge DJ playing all this music. So nobody really would have heard my speaker. And this is my handlebar, by the way. I'm like taping on my bike. But I don't know if you guys know the brand. It's a food brand called Goya. And it is Hispanic based, predominantly Cuban and Puerto Rican. But the Goya, this like big company, right? The Goya tent was the first tent set up at the finish line, and they were the ones with the DJ. Brrr. Who did they have playing when I'm riding through? Selena. I'm not even kidding you. And my Como la Flor, my karaoke song, my favorite song. I mean, I live and die by this song. And it broke me down. I'm looking at the sky, and I'm in the best physical condition I can be. I'm not hurting. I'm tired. Yes, I am definitely crispy from the sun. And that's probably why you can't see me too well. But it was exactly the finish that I envisioned. And Selena's not Puerto Rican or Cuban, so for this tent to be blaring her music, it just was mind-blowing. And I'm sorry this got so long-winded, but I have to keep telling people my experience, and I have to keep telling people my story, so that in the event this one link to this one video makes it to someone who could potentially have symptoms of MS, you're going to be great. Whether it's primary progressive, whether it's relapsing, remittent, it is about your outlook on life. And it's about the people you surround yourself with. And it's about the people that we choose to let help us. That was another really big realization that I had for myself in this whole journey is it doesn't make me weak that people would like to help me out. And I don't have to feel like I'm a burden because I was very adamant about, if I'll send you some later links of videos that, well, you saw on my first videos, right? I wasn't talking about my goal. That was never really, whether I met the goal of our fundraising money or not was kind of extra for me. I needed to raise awareness, and I needed to just ride a bike for myself. And, my team mom, several times that weekend, she said, "You've ridden enough for today. The sun is hot. That's your number one trigger as an MS patient. You need to get on a sack wagon and you need to come to camp. Like you've done your duty, by the way. Are you guys ready?" I came into my team very late in terms of signing up and fundraising. I was the number 2, the second highest fundraiser on our team of 85 people, Blue Line Bike Lab. And I never really once asked for donations. It was more of, if you really want to give, thank you so much. And if anything, please share my video. So Neil. And the rest of the clients from Southern California. I hope you guys really know and understand what you did for a complete stranger that your dad only talked to and your husband only talked to for about 20 minutes. But he really listened to me. And that's what connects us. And right now I'm rereading The Alchemist. It's one of my favorite books. And man, it like slaps you in the face with like a realization. Like we are all one, stripped down to the bone. Doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. We all share the same life and the same struggle, no matter what it is. So, like I said, I'll include pictures in this email. I'm so proud of myself. I am an athlete still, and I'm human still, and I'm still on a mission, and I'm gladly accepting all the universe's blessings and abundance and new friends. So please come back to Texas and let's go have a margarita. I'll show you guys around. Hopdoddy's great, but you guys need some real Mexican food. So from my heart to yours, you can never be too epic, and nothing you can ever do for someone is ever too small. Thank you all so much.